they told me, come back in 6 months.
Yes, you may want to sit.
I'll have to do that.
I'm going to sit right there.
I have a feeling I'm going to be standing.
I have.
I don't miss them a bit. Fundraisers.
I'll find out.
I'll look.
I remember when. Oh, well, see, I didn't know.
It's not a good situation.
Cutting calls going out Friday in town. And a couple hundred shares of sheep. This is 13 cents. Buck 15. Solar farm.
Yeah, that's the way I heard it. Was like,
Michael's right here.
I
Brian's
was
on
gonna
the
say, they acted like they were coming. Somebody.
Michael's sitting right there, so Brian will be here in 2 seconds. Or it could be whatever. I don't know, something between here, 1 hour, 2 hours, I don't know. How long they go to go. But Brian doesn't have the power.
I'm going to call this meeting to order. Roll call.
Brandon Holmes, present.
Keith Block present.
David Hooton, present.
Michael Taylor for Commissioner Mon.
Hannah Dix, present.
Mark Michaud, present.
Notice this meeting was properly posted Friday, August 13th, 2021. Please stand if you're able to do a pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would entertain a motion to nominate a chair for this meeting.
I'll make a motion to make Mr. David Hooton the chair for this meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same as opposed? Okay. Item 1, discussion and possible action regarding an update on the bid process regarding the selection of the administration, fiduciary, and fund management of the Oklahoma County Defined Contribution Retirement Plan. Ms. Boso?
Yes, thank you, everybody. I did call this special meeting, so thank you very much for being here today. Recently, we received 3 bids. for the Retirement Services RFP. Those bids were received from Lincoln Financial, BOK, Bank of Oklahoma, and a combined bid from Heritage and Empower. From those bids, I met extensively with Mr. Prince, John Wilkerson, and a couple of the committee members to review these bids, to evaluate them. I believe that the goal of revising the bid, making it clear in order to evaluate accurately, was very successful. We were able to come to conclusions or be able to identify whether certain requirements were met very quickly. So I think that was very good. However, I am coming to you now to kind of report and hopefully answer as many questions that each bid had deficiencies. Nothing was perfect. And what I would like to kind of expound on a little bit is why my recommendation is to reject all bids and to go out for rebid. Primarily, some of the reasons of why, in combination, not to say specifically which bid did what, but in combination, our bid deficiencies were not providing fiduciary services, not providing loan consolidation services, not reimbursing mutual fund fees, not providing local office services as requested in the bid, not guaranteeing bid prices, and not providing an all-inclusive fee proposal, which contained language that would leave it open-ended, and I couldn't quite calculate certain fee aspects in order to have a cost analysis of who's low, who's high. And so with that information, I'm coming to you today to request a few amendments to the bid and for us to reissue. But before we go into that, I would really like, if there's any questions that I could answer or Mr. Prince could answer to kind of discuss that.
How many bids were returned? Yes or no? I mean, three obviously came back.
We received 3 sealed bids, but I received 3 no bids also.
Okay.
I sat through the meeting with Chantel and Jim, and I would like to make it real clear, Chantel and Jim have done a tremendous job at getting us where we are today. And with the review that Chantel brought us, there was no clear bid. Enough of information was deficient on each bid that didn't appear that the bidder has totally reviewed the document or did not follow the instructions in the document. And whether it's one bidder or another bidder, it's that there wasn't complete clarity. And Chantel had made it real clear to us is that we had too much open-ended information here, and on one, and one wasn't going to qualify if they didn't make major modifications. The other one may not have qualified because they didn't follow one of the key components of the agreement. So she told us what she thought. We kind of gave her advice, gave her some of what we thought of it, and based on our experience of going through this. And our legal counsel for the board also had put in her 2 cents, and it didn't come back clear. And we've done everything we can, and the bidders decided to go off a little bit. So Chantel's obvious recommendation is in the best interest of the board and best interest of the participants to get beyond this and try to get more clarity and make corrections. So, as I said, Chantel and Jim have done a great job. Chantel has gone through every line item, one item at a time, to make sure that we were getting what we were supposed to get, and things just didn't match up. So, recommendations and from the committee or not even recommendations, but listening to it and talking through things that the committee totally agreed with Chantel's opinion of where we were on these bids.
Is it, Bob Ravitz, you were on the original committee. Would you like to say anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was too at that meeting, and I agree with Mr. Block and with the purchasing agent that none of the bids meet the specific specifications as required in the RFP. If the companies want to do it, I think they can do it. I think you all have some questions you need to ask yourselves, such as what does loan consolidation really mean? Because I'm not sure I understand what loan consolidation really means. Secondly, whether you want to split services, such as having the fiduciary and the record keeper as potentially two separate companies, or at least require one of the companies to assume all responsibility. I think either, and then the need for a local office, which I still think is better to have a local place where people can go. But I think all those factors need to be done. You can't take a bid that says it's X number of basis points, and I'll use the Invest Trust bid of 38 basis points because they're not bidding on this, that we're currently paying, and 30 basis points for everything over $100,000, and then say, oh, but we have these other fees and we're not going to bother to tell you what they are. I don't believe you can do that and it to be a valid bid. So hopefully the companies will understand that the next time, but I don't see how you could actually approve of any of those bids and be in compliance with state law. Thank you.
Is the verbiage needing to be changed? Gretchen?
I just want to point out a couple things here. With regard to that committee, it was an informal committee, and so that being said, it was not subject to the open meetings law, and it was not a recommending committee.
Right.
So all of you need to know all the facts and make your own decision. And now the committee can funnel facts to you, but they cannot just say, it's our recommendation, and you say yes or no. So this is your forum to investigate and decide. However, the purchasing agent is your purchasing agent, and she can make recommendations to you. But I just want to make it clear, that committee cannot. And Keith Clark made that very clear, but I want to make it double clear that, and when we met with purchasing agent, it was more of a sounding board to offer suggestions and insights, because some people have a lot of experience in this area. Some have touch and go experience in this area. Some have tons of experience in this area. So that, I just want to give you all your kind of your marching orders, so to speak. So if you have questions, you've got source.
Okay, thank you. Mark? Push your mic.
Sorry. I do have a question, more just to kind of get myself caught up on where we are. I have not heard, but I'm assuming that Invest Trust is not interested in bidding. Okay. And is this a delay of going up for bid again? Is that going to cause any problems with them maintaining our account until we get a new person or company?
Well, to answer your first question, Invest Trust did not show interest in participating in the bid process or turning in a bid.
Okay, I had not heard that, so thank you.
In addition, to answer your second question about the timeline, initially, when the board drafted the RFP and approved that, there was a timeline involved that kind of showed from the start of the bid process all the way through, and you have a handout there, all the way through loan consolidation provided, a period by provider that goes through March 31st. It's kind of like this long timeline. And if the board chooses to move in the direction of possibly reissuing the bid, I wanted to kind of give you some dates so you can see that we can still maintain that same timeline and how that would look through another additional bid process. But I'm not sure InvestTrust's role or their
John?
expectations, other than that they did enter into a new agreement for this fiscal year.
Mr. Wilkinson?
You know, from my understanding, they wanted to get wrapped up by the end of this year and kind of the first of next year. If we stay on Chantel's new proposed timeline, maybe a 4-week bid process, we can still stay close to that original timeline.
And Mr. Prince, are we going to rewrite any of the RFP or just resubmit it?
We are going to revise, I think the thought was that we were.
No, go to the mic. I was asking so we could hear you. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I was just trying to get it. All right. Don't answer it yet.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I just have a little follow-up question. On the 3 bids that we did receive, I heard a list of things that they weren't going to be able to provide. I am assuming that all of them are not, it's not equal in that. It's some were and some were not. So, because I know that there's some of the items that you said they weren't going to be able to provide is something that we've really gotten accustomed to, I guess spoiled.
I think that the fact that we have loans, and there's always questions about the loans, and everyone understands that each individual can have up to 5 loans and then consolidate them. Just from a standpoint of the county clerk's office, there are probably over 1,000 loans outstanding right now, so that is not a little thing we can look at. That's got to be, I'm sure, very important to a lot of people, so I think we need to keep that in mind. And
I understand. Thank you.
You are correct that the reasons that I gave is a combined of all 3 bids, not that each bid shared those same deficiencies, that each bid was unique in what it met and did not meet in the requirements.
Chantel, was it that they didn't respond to those specific requirements, or that they stated they will not be able to provide that?
A mixture of both, but there were several instances where the bidder stated they could not meet the requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify, number one, if the bid process, the way it was written and the way they were responded to, like somebody said, sometimes the lawyers get in there and get too artistic with what they want to put into those bids, and then it takes it away from the county's requirements. That's part of the problem, is one of the, and that kind of is one of the compounding problems with the bid. But I will also say that these bids are probably a lot closer than we were when we did this before 5 or 6 years ago. So, and again, Chantel did a great job of doing and Jim did a great job of analysis and explaining it to the committee. And we did the sounding board of what happened in the past, what we're looking for towards the future, and how we need to get there. So, again, it's a matter of who's going to replace InvestTrust, because they are going to be replaced, and who fits the bulk of the needs of the participants of the county, and meeting all the criteria that Chantel has put out there for the county, for the county responsibilities and their responsibilities to the county, including fees, including services, including everything. So just to kind of move things along, I'm going to make a motion that we accept Chantel's recommendation of not accepting the 3 bids. We got to do that first. And I want to be very, very specific about it. It's because none of the 3 complied in total to the bid process. And we would like to reject all 3. I take her recommendations to this committee and recommend that we, in a motion to reject those 3 bids.
I would second that. If you want to push your motion button, I'll push mine.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. So,
Whether or not, when it's rejected, that does not foreclose them for rebidding, does it?
That is correct. So the motion that the board will
state
make.
her question. We couldn't
Go ahead
hear
and
it.
state it, clear it up, because I may not have hit it right.
This will not exclude bidders from bidding again.
No, no. That'll,
that is correct. This
I'll
just
accept that
opens
as an
it back
amendment, is that the bidders who are have bid before have the right to rebid and clarify their bids. You have to accept my amendment.
I'll accept the motion as amended and second it, and we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye or press yes.
Aye.
Same as opposed? Okay, it carries 6-0. Going on to item number 2, discussion of possible action regarding an amendment to the defined contribution RFP document. Now,
Yes, each of you have just a small packet. There's about 3 or 4 pages there. Just as some examples, I wanted to be able to give you something to kind of look at while I'm talking, and Mr. Prince can kind of help me with this. Through the different meetings and reviews that we've had, these are a few things that kind of came out during those discussions that I think we could do better and amend the RFP. One being defining loan consolidation. What you have before you, I believe, is a document that we provide to participants. And what?
can I make a
Yes.
quick motion to receive this
Yep.
document? That's a motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Same as opposed? Thank you.
It's just provided for you. What I'm asking for you today is to define loan consolidation, what that is, what we're providing to our participants. And this is just a little handout if this is something that you wanted to pull from, or it just may guide you in how you would want to define it moving forward. That would be one amendment I would like to suggest. The other is a price sheet. At this time, our RFP does allow for vendors to identify what their compensation and their fees will be, but I think it will be helpful since the bid requires an all-inclusive schedule that we provide a guide that they can fill in, much like a price sheet, which is what you have before you. And we can identify what their all-inclusive fee would be, whether it's percentage or basis point, and also identify acceptable additional fees. That's the second. This would be a proposed fee schedule, yes, or a price sheet.
Quick question on the current loan amount plus $75 loan origination fee. Is that paid for by the employee?
Yes.
And does the county pay anything when those loans originate?
The loans are not a
Okay.
cost to the county.
All right, thank you.
The last 2 pieces of paper in your packet, I have example A and example B of what it would look like for a traditional bid period. We just went out to bid for about 6 weeks for the RFP. And your example A would be a 30-day bid period where it is issued this week and it opens September 20th. Example B is an 18-day bid period, so it's shortened up quite a bit, and it would open September 7th. Each of these have different domino effects, if you will, throughout evaluation and perhaps coming to different boards in order to report and provide recommendation. The main thing I wanted to show you is whether you have a long bid period or a shorter bid period, we're able to maintain our end dates, which is in the green and the yellow. So it'd be the board's pleasure on how you would like to solicit this bid, how long of a period, and I think we can make it work, whatever your pleasure may be.
If the board did a short bid period, is there any concern that we would get the same result again from the bidders, that they wouldn't meet the requirements, or are you confident that these amendments would fix that?
I believe that as the RFP stands today, it's a good RFP, and we did receive 3 bids. However, it's very telling that not everyone is able to meet all of those requirements that the county is hoping for. I am not suggesting that the county change any of their requirements, because they're definitely related to the current plan, but I do think it's wise to expect a similar or lower bid turnout if we're going to clarify things a little bit more. I don't expect a plethora more of bids to come in, because I think we still had a good bid. I hope I'm explaining that
Is
correctly.
everybody who did or did not participate will be allowed to participate?
Absolutely.
And everybody will be notified that we are redoing this, correct? Meaning even the people that said no, and
They would still be notified of a new bid, yes.
I have a question. these bids were open and the bidders have had a chance to look at what was bid, what the other bidders submitted?
Yes, so they were open on August 2nd, and at that point, when the Board of County Commissioners opens them and receives them, they are public record.
Okay.
So everybody has seen each other's homework.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
Chantel, one other thing I have a question on is not only, we want to be specific about a couple things. One, we want a hard bid. And the second thing was that we talked, that was bounced around, is that we only want one company being responsible. And is that going to be included in the amendments to the RFP?
I believe that our current RFP states that Oklahoma County Retirement Board wants a turnkey contract where the primary party is one vendor that assumes all risk with the county.
Okay,
And the vendor may subcontract any service. And they disclose.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, so we don't have any more confusion, that is hard and fast in the RFP. Okay.
That is in the RFP. We did receive a proposal that was to enter into two separate agreements, and the board.
Heritage and Empower, right?
Yes, they did provide a combined bid, and the board may make those amendments if they chose to, but I believe in order to comply with our plan requirements and the other requirements, that a turnkey solution is best.
Can I ask a question of our legal counsel, and both legal counsels, both the DA's office and Mr. Prince, are we pushing something down the legal throats of this board to try to get a contract from October 1st to a contract to be approved by the retirement board in basically three and a half, 4 days? Is it possible? And I'm asking the question, because contracts have to be, there is going to be some fine tuning. Can it be done? I don't want to, again, I'm expecting, the same professionalism that we've always had. I just don't want to put you guys, looking at these dates, are we going to be pushing ourselves out too tight on some of these dates? We approve it, we would,
Don't we have October 5th?
well, no, you have to have the contract approved by the retirement board on the 4th.
Okay.
So it has to be given notice 3 days or 2 days in advance. So you're talking that they have 1 to 2 days to get a contract reviewed. And she's shaking her head no.
Well, in part because it's not completely up to anyone here. So the successful bidders' lawyers would have to have time as well, and we can't, we may be able to commit to getting something done that quickly on our side, on the county side, but, and even there, it's difficult. And I don't know what other demands people have, so that may be.
So Gretchen, if we award it, and however long it takes once it's awarded, that isn't really, is that a moot point? Once there's been a decision and it's been awarded, however long it takes to finish up the contract, or is that something that has to happen at the same time?
Well, what normally happens, and I'm usually just the recipient of it, but what appears to happen is the purchasing agent advises whoever, you've been awarded this contract. They normally prepare the contract, send it through the president, in this case to Chantel or to John, who would then forward it to my office. I can't control how long it takes for that corporation to prepare their contract. I mean, they may take a week, a day, 3 months. And then it comes to me for review. And if they've added language that I can't legally agree to, it can go back and forth. So it's not unusual for it to take a period of time, and it's comes outside our control. I can't make a corporation go, hey, yeah, if they want to submit with their bids a proposed contract, great, I don't know if that ever happens. But Jim and I we're willing to work on that.
Right.
But
It's a complicated
it's
contract.
just saying that sometimes it gets
Bogged down. Yeah.
Well, Gretchen, if we remember what we've gone through in the past, that contract is not, since we're not taking one that we've used for 15 years, it will not be an easy contract, and I'm not trying to push anything out. I just want to have some realistic comment here that I think we had talked just in passing that maybe that we advise Invest Trust that we are working as diligently as we can, but this may stretch into the 2022 year. And that's, not that I want to kick them to the curb or kick anything to the curb, but this contract is not, we went through this 15 years ago with Invest Trust when we did the original contract with them, and of course, they probably modified it, but it's not going to be this renewal of a contract. It's going to be ground up documentation and wording.
And what,
Contract, a blessing.
and what we
Right.
provide as part of the bid is a copy of the current contract and a copy of the county's terms. Can you agree with this, with the county's terms for contracts? And that was part of the successful bid, is if they could agree to the contract terms. So that might speed up the process a little bit.
Chantel, did you have something you wanted to, okay. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So
We were talking about a bid that's not turnkey, to propose for the county to enter into two separate contracts. I think you said that was up to them. I would differ. I would argue differently. If you get that kind of bid, I think you have a non-responsive bid because your RFP specifically says one contract with one provider.
My comment earlier was that if the board wishes to amend the new RFP to allow for separate contracts, but currently it is written turnkey. It does not allow for two separate contracts. And the one proposal that we had requesting that was one requirement that didn't meet our bid.
Right.
I'm gonna suggest you ask for input on
Mr. Prin-
having two separate.
Yeah, so we only, I believe we only had one bid that met that requirement. That, in other words, that said, this is a single source, and one party is responsible for everything. If we were to allow for the separation of the investment services versus the administrative services, it's likely that we would get more responses, more bids. But the county's experience, the experience that you will get from that, from a dual source arrangement where neither party is responsible for everything, will be different, will be clearly different than what you've had with Invest Trust. So, I mean,
Does it make things take longer? Is it a pro or a con
to have two?
to have two companies?
I think it does it would result in some more time, less timely responses. It may result in some inconsistent responses from the two parties. So it won't be as seamless an experience as that you have now with Invest Trust.
And what you've had in the past and enjoyed is one company offering a huge fiduciary umbrella for the benefit of the county. And so sometimes these record keepers are saying, no, we're not. Do you agree with me?
Right.
We're not fiduciaries. And so that concerns me, especially with these loans.
Well, there are, so you wouldn't have one party that's responsible, and they're not, in connection with record keeping, they would likely say that they're not fiduciaries of the plan or of the county.
Well, I mean, personally, I think we all would want it to be one single source. Is anybody, I'm not going to ask for a vote or anything, I'm just wanting to know the will of the board.
One of the things that I've thought about this is that having two sources where you have a record keeper and a fiduciary, if somebody is not going to take responsibility, you end up with the finger pointing. That's number one. It's your problem. No, it's your problem. Then we have to figure out whose problem it really is. The second thing is, based on this kind of having separate contracts, one of them could give notice and walk, and we still have the other. And that means we have to go replace one. Because maybe we are assuming that the record keeper is doing a great job, but the fiduciary decided he doesn't want to do it anymore, then we have to run out and get somebody to replace him. Now we have bifurcated this process. Intentionally or unintentionally, you've bifurcated the process by having two separate, distinct contracts and vendors. If you have one vendor who subcontracts, then that vendor is the one that's ultimately responsible for everything, even though he is saying he's created a subcontract with the vendor to do part of it, his share of it. By having that subcontract and having somebody, the board has somebody to look to, and that contract will stay in place. And it's up to that lead to make sure his sub stays happy. That's not going to be our problem, it's going to be theirs. And so I think that if you want to go the two vendor route, the Pandora's box is going to get open on a couple of issues. One is there'll be finger pointing. And number two is that there'll be two distinct separation of services, and there could be some services that we think should be held by one, and it's going to be told it's going to be somebody else. And then you've got a question of who is really ultimately responsible. That, and dropping a service that we didn't intend for it to be dropped. So if somebody wants to do this and have a record keeper as a third-party record keeper, then let them sign on and let them be responsible for the record keeper's services, not having two separate agreements. Let him do his record-keeping contract on his side, and then he provides that person will provide all the documents. I mean, if that was the only play we had in town to make this deal work, I might consider it, but we would consider it only because that is the only play in town. I don't believe that could, I think there'll be a stand-up situation here where somebody's going to say, yeah, we'll stand up, be the stand-up guy, and these guys are going to work for us.
And they have the options to subcontract now, right? As long as they're the full person who's responsible, they're the one-stop shop for our questions, but they have the option now to subcontract those pieces if they don't perform those themselves in our current RFP.
That's correct.
So, Chantel, are you needing us to do anything as far as picking example A or B, or just allowing you to the leeway of the agenda item?
Those timelines, they are tentative that we put into the proposal anyways. They're not hard, fast dates. And these are just examples to show you of what a short bid timeframe could do versus a longer bid timeframe. Now, the rest of the dates really do rely on things like review and corrections. So it's a domino effect of where we may be at the very end. And even though our target is the January-March loan consolidation period and getting a new provider in before the end of the calendar year, like Keith had said, it may be pushed out depending on the responses we receive and the different contract negotiations that kind of follow suit. These are just examples. These are not
Right.
hard, fast to vote on these timelines.
This is incredibly important, so I think that we need to give them as much time as we can. So I don't think we need to hurry to do anything, because the wheels aren't falling off the bus. I mean, in my personal opinion. Any other questions, concerns?
Well, I think we have to vote for the amendments as proposed to the RFP in order so they can be incorporated with the RFP. Yes.
In terms of amendments to the RFP, I think Chantel had one other issue to ask about, to see if we.
Well, I hope we're talking about the same thing. Other than defining loan consolidation, I would propose perhaps a pre-bid meeting where I could meet with interested vendors and have questions and answers, particularly to outline what our requirements are in the bid, to go over those and to clarify anything at that time.
That sounds like a wonderful idea. Is that legal?
Well, they do it all the time. It's harassment.
Okay. Good for you.
It passes because it's a matter of habit, not a matter of law.
All right.
I'm good with that.
One thing that Mr. Ravitz had mentioned earlier was a special request that Oklahoma County has for a local office or a local representative. A local representative is requested or required in our bid documents. It does not specify hours of operation, Monday through Friday. It doesn't specify location, and I think that is good. It kind of allows vendors to come in and present what their solution would be to meet our requirements as a local representative, whether it be more technological, online, or maybe they have somebody here, but this is what it looks like. It just kind of opens it up a little bit, but it is something I wanted to bring to your attention, that it's not real restrictive, and you're more than welcome to amend anything to make it different at this time, making these amendments. I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Are we taking the word required out and making it requested in that area?
What it states now is it's actually in multiple areas of the bid where it says vendor must provide a local representative for, and then it'll list things like provide loans by fax, in person, or by mail. There's a couple other areas, distributions that will be provided by mail or in person. And so we have these different areas that we require that they provide a local representative, but it doesn't necessarily say a local office.
I'd like to circle back to that question earlier, just to make sure that I understand. So if we make these amendments that were provided on the sheet that we made a motion to accept, you are or you aren't confident in your professional opinion that we're going to get the same result as we got last time? You see, because I don't want to spin our
Yes.
wheels either. If we don't make enough amendments to the RFP
I
to
belie-
to even get a company.
I believe that if we clean it up, I believe we would be able to get a response that would meet all the requirements.
Okay.
I think it will give enough clarifying information to vendors in order to move forward successfully. And I believe we would receive a successful response from this.
I'd go
Only
ahead.
more than one, yes.
I'd make a motion to accept the document as amended regarding an amendment to the defined contribution RFP document.
Second.
I have a question.
Okay.
As far as the definition of consolidation of loans, would that be something that would be written by Jim, or? I mean, you earlier said that you were looking at us to define that, and I don't know that.
I'm not sure if we discussed that completely.
Sorry, Mark. I discussed it with Chantel, and what we're going to do on this one, if it's okay, is provide our loan consolidation guidelines and kind of the document that outlines how loan consolidation is done and how it works.
Okay, so
Include-
we're not required then to define that today.
No, correct. But
Okay.
this wasn't included, this whole document wasn't included in the first series, so we thought that might give them more
All right,
information.
thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Press your button. All opposed, same. Passes 6-0. Do we have any citizens that wish to participate? None signed up? Board comments. Brandon?
I do not. Thank you.
Keith?
Thank you, Chantel, and thank you, Jim. You guys have just done a tremendous job of getting us to this point. And I have to tell you, after serving on this board for many years, this has been a major, major improvement to where we've been.
Mark?
Prayers and thoughts with Donna Jackson, who had a terrible fall and has been in the hospital, so keep her in your thoughts.
Well, again, I'd like to echo what Brian says and also thank all of you all and Gretchen and for helping get this done. Ironically, when I first was elected for my first term, you all were in the middle of this, and it's nice to see it actually maybe go through. So congratulations. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We're adjourned.
What's going to end up, you're going to get the same three two of the three to come back. And what we're hoping is that one of them will go from two contracts to a single contract, and that the other one
get their shit together. And what really pissed us off is that Bank of Oklahoma did a Bank of Oklahoma move. And did that bullshit move that they're not supposed to move. They always say, well, assuming this, assuming that. The answer is, no, it doesn't work that way.
So Brian, what happened to Donna?
Yeah, considering I get a whole $50 a month. And she get paid. Yeah. Do it by the meeting instead of the money.
So really, it's just two.
The two outside members. Because I met.
Do I need to say that as?